Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to day 2 of the 2025 B12 football kickoff media days. Day 2. In this one, we'll have a head coach or maybe somebody from West Virginia Mountaineers. In fact, we do have a head coach right now.
It's been good. Typically, it'll take you maybe 6 to 9 months to kind of get accustomed to the new town. It took me about 6 to 9 minutes. And we got a couple new traffic circles in town. I'm still trying to figure those out, but outside of that, it was an easy transition.
You know, I'm curious about that because you left West Virginia, you come back sometime later. Have you allowed yourself to go back in time when you see a store or a spot or a home, and it just brings back some of those memories from the early 2000s?
It's a little surreal. It's been so busy, maybe I haven't reflected, and that's probably a good thing. But it's been 17 years. You know, I feel a little bit like Forrest Gump. I've been in the desert, been in the bayou, been all over the place.
Now let's listen to our head coach, West Virginia head coach, Rich Rodriguez, from a West Virginia University, home of the Mountaineers.
It's got to be so fun. I know there's just so much energy around your return, and everyone's so excited, us included. But I am curious about your team. I mean, 60 new faces I've read.
Yeah, I think it's closer to 70 counting this one.
It's
a lot of turnarounds.
It's unbelievable. I mean, how do you know what you have at that point? I mean, you just kind of throw it against the wall and see what works, and there's an experimentation throughout the
spring. You get a little bit, and half of those weren't here in the spring.
Right.
So you get a little bit of knowledge in summer workouts, but not a whole lot. But August camp is so important that you got to make sure the culture is right. That's first and foremost. And then also, you know, did we evaluate right? All these new guys you brought in, you better make sure you evaluate right the guys that can play. And we think we did. Now, we'll know for sure, but the one thing that we wanted to make sure we have is in the first year, we established the environment, the culture we have. Coaches use that word all the time, but do they really adhere to it on a daily basis? We're doing that. The players have done a great job of buying into it, and so we'll see what happens.
Coach, we know you know how to score points with the best of them, and with that comes a quarterback competition that started in the spring. What should we expect as you head into fall camp from that quarterback room and that quarterback battle that you have going on?
It's always a position you probably should worry about the most because it is the most important position probably in football because you got no chance to win if that guy's not pretty good. You know, speaking to a couple of them that know, right? But I think that's probably the room I'm least worried about from an athletic and a talent standpoint. I've got 3 guys that have played some games in college football. I've got a couple really good young players. So we have the talent there. Now, they got to learn our system. They got to obviously get better at individually what they can do. But we got to put the pieces around them as well.
It's so right across the road.
Competition. I'm hoping I have 3 I can win with. And I think we do. You know, if I have 2 that we can win with, I'll play both of them. If I have 3, I'll play all 3 of them. But I have a good quarterback room, I think.
You know, you're kind of a blessing and a curse of your own success at West Virginia. We know where you had that program, right? So you come back, and the fans are excited because they know where this program has been under you. How do you balance what we know can be relative to what we know early on might be because of the transition of what you're doing?
That's a good question, and I told some folks earlier today. You know, obviously some of our success we had back in the 2000s was a reason they were interested in us coming back. But I think more so is because we won at Jack State the last couple of years. If we didn't win at Jack State the last couple of years, I wouldn't have had this opportunity.
Yeah.
So I know there's some nostalgia going on there, and I think we had some great times. We had a great run. And can we bring some of that excitement back? We can, for sure. It's different now in college, and it's so transactional. But at the same time, if we work, and I've got to be a better coach. I'm a better coach now than I was a week ago, let alone 17 years ago. But we got to do better as coaches. But we also got to get our players to, I don't want to call it the old school way, but buy into the environment that we had back then, where everything was more about us and the team as opposed to individualism and entitlement and all that stuff. There's none of that in our program. We're not going to have entitlement. We're going to work hard. We're going to earn success, and then we'll follow that with some wins.
No, you're going to be a hard hat lunch pail group. That's just the way you've always coached it, knowing you, covering you, been around a long time. But I think people still so fondly remember the Pat White, Steve Slayton, zone read, tempo, unbelievable, high-octane offense. How
another thing I don't know what to tell you, but
over the last couple of years at Jack State, where I've seen you kind of change and kind of
when we go to you, that's some great news. When we share with you in that month,
and playing hard and not being soft, whatever.
When
but
it
also
gets
our tempo is
closer,
always
of course,
part
I know we
not
got
going fast all the time. but
No,
controlling
August.
the tempo. Having a team that's in great condition on all three phases, that's part of it as well.
When is it?
But I think, scheme-wise, like, I'm a
Alright.
kind of a football
So,
if I look on Twitter or see
I
something
think,
on the internet that looks like something that could be implemented, it's a great
Washington,
idea, and we
D.C.,
can coach
if
it.
you
Hey, why
understand
not
what
try
I'm
it?
talking
You know what I mean? So, but at the same time, we always
Washington,
end up
D.C.,
going back
Washington,
into
D.C.
our core and our base, which is we're going to play with 11, including the quarterback will run a little bit. We're going to play
We'll
with
have
tempo,
more fun
and
than
we're going to
ever,
play
of
really,
course.
really hard all the time.
Green
Coach
grass,
Greg just said
green
it.
grass,
You've always
green
been,
grass.
bring your lunch pail type of guy, and that's the culture you've created. You said to your team when you got to Morgantown, we're going to be mentally and physically tougher than our opponent when we get on the field. How do you create that culture?
It's not easy. It's not just
Yep.
because kids are different today. That's not it. It's just more that, there's so many other things going on in their lives. Especially now, people ask, like, say, gosh, can you coach them now because we're getting paid? Well, hell, you can coach them harder because they're getting paid. Right? They got more at stake, right? And players want to get value. They say, listen, I'm not. Before you say, I'm going to get you more valuable, so for the next level you get paid. Well, now you get more valuable and get paid more next year or next week. So it's a different dynamic. And as much as old school traditional coach, maybe I am in ways, I'm also like, what is today's world look like to these guys? What can we do now with these guys to motivate them to play at their very highest? And I still think that's part of our greatest responsibility as a coach is we can take them somewhere where they can't take themselves. And that's what coaching's all about.
So
I
Pat's on
love
staff.
action.
He's one of your supporters. So what's it like having a guy that knows your offense inside out? Kind of being one of those guys that indoctrinates.
Yeah, with Pat and Rasheed Marshall, who played with, was a great player, and Noel Devine is on our staff. I said I didn't hire him for what they did in 2000.
Well, it's 5:30.
That helped me know who they are. I hired them because of what they can do for me now.
Yeah.
The nice part about us having them around is our players hear all the stories about Pat White, Noel Devine, and Rasheed Marshall, and know what kind of success they had. And when they do a dive into who they were as people and as players, and how selfless they were in the program while being stars, that helps us create the environment that we want.
Zach Alley. When it said Zach Alley going to West Virginia, all of us were like, whoa, what a pull. I mean, that might have been the best recruiting haul of the entire offseason. So what is it about his scheme? What is it about his fit that made you think, all right, this is my guy on defense?
Well, Zach and I worked together.
Right.
I was at Monroe, then at Jack State. He did a great job for him. And I remember after the bowl game, the second year, and we won our bowl game at Jack State, and he came to see me and said, I got an offer to go to Oklahoma. And I'm like, are you going to be the DC? Yeah. Are you going to call the plays? Yeah. And I said, wow. So what are they paying you? He said, like $1.2 million. I'm like, why are you waiting on me? I better get on that play, right? And so fast forward a year later, and I get the West Virginia job. I said, hey, Zach, I'm in a different place now. Maybe I can compete with Oklahoma. So it worked out great. He was the first key piece to me with our defense, what we wanted to build, and it built the staff and the players from there. And he's a great young coach, and he's doing a great job.
Coach, for the viewers out there who maybe haven't experienced a game day Saturday in Morgantown, I think it's personally one of the most special places in all of college football. What makes Morgantown so special?
Let's go Mountaineers. Let's go drink some beers. It's got Van Pelt, right? It's a very unique environment, very similar to a lot of teams in the South where I've had an opportunity to coach out before. And football is really, really important there. There's no other Power 4 team. There's no pro team. And so West Virginia athletics, West Virginia football is a big deal to a lot of people. And there's a responsibility that we have for them to enjoy it, to win games. And the best way to enjoy it is to win games. And we'll tailgate like nobody else. These Mountaineers, when we play Pitt, there'll be 60,000 in the stadium. There won't be an empty seat.
Yeah.
There'll be 15,000 in the parking lot drinking moonshine and beer, wanting to get in. It'll be a heck of an environment.
So, last one for me. You mentioned Pitt, backyard brawl. I believe one of the top 5 rivalries in all of college football that needs to get more attention. It is so fierce. I had an opportunity to call one 3 years ago when you guys reunited for the first time in a decade. What will that moment be like September 13th? I know you're not even looking ahead, week 1 or week 2 or there, but
no, I'm not. I'll get reminded about it every other day. Not sooner than that. Yeah, there's no question. It is one of the greatest rivalries. And I've been blessed to be a part of some big ones, throughout my career. But there's no
backyard brawl around. Oh, so you got West Virginia will take on Pittsburgh. Oh my goodness.
But not in this case.
I got the other day.
It's one of the things that makes college athletics and college football
I think
it's
so, of course.
How important it is, and we're not going to downplay it. Like I'm not talking
Like,
about it right now, but we'll have a day dedicated in
downplayed
it.
it.
Summer to Pitt, and then we'll talk about it quite a bit as a staff.
Let me just tell you, I absolutely love this. This just looks right. And I'd much rather have you there than in Arizona, being a couple of Arizona State guys up here. But good to see you back.
Thank you.
Congratulations on everything. Rich Rodriguez, West Virginia. I'm just telling you something. This team, with this man back at head coach, West Virginia football's Pat McAfee's going to tell you probably every day for the next 10 years. Back. Rich Rodriguez, thank you so much for joining us. Still a lot to get to here at Big 12 Media Days. Lance Leipold, head coach, Kansas Jayhawks. If his quarterback stays healthy, who knows what they could rock chalk this year. We'll catch up with Coach Leipold when we return live to Big 12 Media Days in Texas.
Feeling on the other side. I shouldn't go anywhere.